Good day, all you dreamers, keepers, and reptile enthusiasts. It's the conductor with Sky High Morphs rolling with the Show Me Reptile show. You have a little bit of a special co host today, and I'm going to go ahead and bring out that special co host right now. Let's introduce the general.
What is up? What is up? What is up, everybody?
We're going to go ahead and give shout outs to everybody in the comments. And number first, and well, it does look like he says he's been here 2 days early. So the general is yeah, 2
I've
days.
been ready. I've been ready.
So we have the boss, the Show Me Reptile shows themselves. And of course, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Yeah, been waiting 2 days for this. uh so we also have Kryptonite Dreams. How you doing
What's up,
today?
Wayne?
And as everybody else pops in, we'll go ahead, pull yourself up on the stage. We're going to bring Gavin's from Balls to You.
How's it going, everyone?
How
What's
you
going
doing,
on?
Gavin? Thank you for coming out. I greatly appreciate it. I know it's kind of late over there where you're at. So for those who might not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about Balls to You and what the name means to you?
Oh yeah. Well, I'll try and keep it short. That's for sure. So the long and short of it is, I accidentally started breeding ball pythons back in 2004-ish.
Okay.
I then set up. I then realised and was watching a lot of the Americans. Uh, you guys do your thing, and all the greats over there, and I was sort of intrigued into what was going on. I was in the forums, and then I thought, you know what, I want to be a part of this community. I want to do something. I want to help people. And when I reached out to people in the UK and some people in the US, they kind of didn't want to help me start my journey. So I then adopted the name Balls to You, which was a cheeky, uh, dare I say, UK or British term that when I'm going to swear now, but balls to you, when we say balls to you, I'm going to learn myself, you know,
Right.
and that's where the name came from, bit of tongue in cheek. And I thought, you know what, if they're not going to help me, I'm going to help myself, and then I'm going to share that information with other people. So I officially became Balls to You in 2014, and then we snowballed to the present day. So yeah, it's been cool.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
guess they know now, huh,
Yeah,
Gavin?
you definitely do. Definitely
Oh yeah,
do. Now, one of the projects that you are actually known for is the Rhino gene. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
yeah. So the Rhino gene was really bizarre, guys. And again, I'll try and keep it short for everyone, just to try and give you a bit of the backstory. So around about 2017, I picked up some animals, and I actually wanted to make some super pastel clowns, which were killer clowns,
Right.
obviously. And I bred these animals together, and I produced this weird looking clown. And if you go back on my Instagram, you'll see around about 2017, 2018, I produced this unusual clown. And there was something about the original mom, which was a pastel, what I believed to be a pastel het clown at the time. She just looked different, you know.
Right.
I got like a keen eye for things early on, and I'd sent some pictures to some well-known breeders, and they were like, "No, no, no, it's just a pastel. It's just a pastel, or pastel, as we say
Right.
in the US." And I was like, "No, there's something more." Anyway, I produced these clowns, really weird, and I was like, I can't keep them all. I've got to
Right.
sell them on, and I sold the original pastel het clown, which we now know is the original founding animal which founded the rhino gene. So I sold that female on. Anyway, as far as I would understand, if I look back now, I had no rhino stuff in my collection. I'd sold all the bits and whatever else,
Right.
and before then, I just called it the thing because there was something going on. I just didn't know what. So I sold the stuff off. Anyway, a friend of mine phoned me the one day and he said, "Oh, I've managed to pick up that pastel het clown female that you sold a couple of years ago from a guy up north." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool." I said, "There's something going on with that female. I don't know what, but just keep an eye on the stuff you make." And he said to me, "Well, I don't actually have anything to breed to her." So I said, "Okay, let me send you a male clown." So I sent him a male clown, and
Okay.
we did this breeding pairing.
Right.
And he sent me some pictures, and I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much what I saw, sort of about 3 or 4 years ago when I started hatching the what we now call the rhino stuff." Anyway, so the second season, the first season, so the first season he bred that female. There was some really peculiar babies because it kind of didn't make sense. So I sent him a
Okay.
different female, and I sent him a different male this time. Still a clown. It was a lesser clown I sent him this time,
Okay.
and then he produced these weird, and I mean weird babies. And when we actually looked at the clutch, the female had actually partho. Okay, so that basically means she gave two copies, which meant we had super rhinos in the clutch.
Right.
So, of course, this was crazy. So I was like, I knew there was something going on. And now, just automatically, we've proven by pure accident that we've got a super in the rhino gene.
Okay.
So, the long and short of it, then he decided he wanted to get out of breeding ball pythons. So I had all the rhino stuff back because I felt like there was definitely, I had more space, more time. I wanted to invest more time to the project. So I had the project back. Um, and I bred the mom again, and we produced some stuff. And I said, this is definitely something genetic. We need to market this in a way that we can keep track of the lineage. And this was just before shed testing was really kicking off. So I still kept it the thing, but I was like, thing doesn't really roll off your tongue. I need to
Right.
rename this. So anyway, once I'd established and I got some shed tests back from Pro Herper in Europe, and we established that it was nothing like what was out there at the moment. And I'd got
Okay.
single gene forms, I've got super forms, I've got every, I'd proved it back and forth, so we
Right.
knew it was a real gene, if you like. We then marketed it as the Rhino gene, changed the name, just went right. Let's just call it something cool like the Rhino. So let's call it the Rhino. And I remember editing the video, and I was pulling some pictures back from my old Instagram and various bits and pieces.
Okay.
And the one of the original clowns that I held in my hand on my Instagram picture, I said, "Oh, there's something going on this female, but I can't keep them all. This one's sold." I pulled that picture up and I was like, that female looks familiar to me. So I come back into the HQ and I pulled open a drawer which had just a clown. And this clown female had been given to me by another friend, right?
Right. Right.
And I compared the picture and I compared this now what was an adult female. And it was actually the baby, right? So
Right.
I sold the baby back in 2017 to a friend of mine. He got out the hobby and sold it to his friend. His
Uh,
friend got out the hobby and sold it to another friend. That friend was a mutual friend of mine and my other friend, and he sent it to my friend. So this dude,
Wow.
Yeah,
honestly, this animal had gone through 4 breeders' hands, and it found itself back into
bad.
my collection without me even realizing, right? So, original female. So it was almost like the Rhino project was meant to be with me, if that makes sense. So,
Now, the snake that you're referencing now, was that from your first clutch with that
Yeah, yeah.
original female?
yeah, so
So
this
this,
So
is the original
yeah,
daughter, yeah, from the first clutch that I sold, had gone through 4 different breeders. They hadn't even bred her. That was the thing.
wow,
That
wow.
so yeah, because people were getting out, and this female was just being sold. And literally, my friend said to me, he said, Gav, I've got this clown. I don't need it. Do you want it? I said, do you know what? I'll have it. I said, because I can always do with an extra clown female.
sure.
Right, yeah.
And I remember getting her and I was like, man, this girl's really different, really dark. I really like her. You know, I was like, and it didn't click. And it was only when I was editing the first Rhino video that I remember
Right.
coming back into the HQ and going and pulling open the drawer because I knew exactly where she was in the rack. And I pulled open the drawer and I got my phone and I compared the picture and I was like, oh my God, this is just too, this is too coincidental for it not to, you know, I'm not a religious or a superstitious guy as such, but you know, when things happen for a reason, this was that reason. So yeah,
It sounded like
um,
things kept happening
Yeah.
yeah,
on the whole project. Your story almost sounds like it's more difficult for you to
Like,
have tracked down your original project than to get into a
yeah,
new project.
but
yeah.
that's
So,
a story you can't make up though. Like,
No.
guys, all the evidence is there. Yeah, you can go back and look at all my
Oh,
old stuff
yeah.
and
yep, yep.
see it. And what was so bizarre was I hadn't even gone hunting for the original female. Do you know what I mean? You know when some people
Right.
go looking for a project,
Yeah.
this project just it was like a boomerang.
Fell
It
in-
came
Right.
back.
Yeah.
It was
It
destined.
came back. It was
Yeah.
just it was nuts. So I knew I had to invest more time, even though we'd got combos and we knew there was a super. We knew the
Right.
males and the females were, viable. We knew it was, consistently replicating itself. We just
Right.
we just needed to do more work. And as you know, projects don't just happen overnight. You know, they
No,
take
they don't.
years and years of breeding. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
And actually, I have a reel that I'm going to play right now that shows a little bit of your rhino gene.
We have the Super Rhino Clown. Guys, look at that. I've never, I mean, I bred a chocolate to it because I thought maybe it could be like a chocolate type gene or Wookiee, something like that. That's why the first animal you saw, I bred the chocolate spot nose to. But it didn't produce anything like a super chocolate because this kind of reminded me a little bit of a super chocolate, but it's not. So this is a Super Rhino Clown. Again, I've renamed it. It was the Thing. It was the Riot. But like I said, people had the Thing I didn't really like, and someone had already called and named one of their genes Riot. So look at that head, just crazy. And yeah, I'm super pleased. Obviously, we're doing some stuff with it again this season. We're going to be producing some more combos and just highlighting and showing off the Rhino gene itself, which I really want to show off. But yeah, super excited for this project. Again, if it wasn't for the mum parthoing, then we wouldn't know there was a super. This is a female, so obviously she's going to take a sweet time growing up as usual. But the mom is absolutely massive. The original pastel rhino. Het clown, het hypo is absolutely massive. Yeah, I'm going to show you a few more now from the Rhino project. So here we have a Super Rhino
pastel. Nuts. Look at the 2 dots at the end of its nose, or at the end of the eye stripe. Look at the 2 dots. It's absolutely crazy. Let me just show this. Come here, sweetheart. Just crazy. And the head is, again, typical of a rhino head. It has almost like this cross effect on its head, on the blushing there. I did hit in the clutch a super pastel super rhino.
Really caught my attention. I was like, man, that just the super pastel rhino with those 2 dots. That's like, man, that's really awesome.
It's clean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a question on that. So you were telling us that you got those 2 supers, and that's one of them in that video right there, right?
Yeah. So
So
there was actually 3 supers in the clutch because the mom lays quite a big clutch. There was a super rhino clown, which was the one you saw. There was a super rhino pastel, and there was a super pastel super rhino.
Wow.
All powerful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Now,
the super pastel super rhino looked, it had the spots on the nose, virtually very similar, but you can just imagine like the super pastel. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like we all know what super pastels look like.
Yes.
It was just, yeah, another version of that. So they were pretty cool.
Wow.
yeah, that's awesome. It was so clean, and the head stamp looked really cool
Yeah.
on both of those animals.
I like
But
that.
like the top quarter of that snake was
Yeah.
so appealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've really learned a lot this last season. So I managed to get leopard into the rhino,
Oh,
just to
nice.
make leopard rhino combos, and it really blew me away what the leopard and the rhino did together. Um, and it just showed that even though leopard is quite dominant, the rhino could still, show itself and dominate the leopard as well without overpowering the leopard. You know? So it's been pretty cool this year. Literally, I've just had my first clutch of rhino clowns hatch out with
Okay.
a few different genes. They've just shed out. So as soon as they've had a few feeds, I'll be doing an update video on them as well. So
Okay.
they're
Nice.
pretty cool. Some new
Nice.
rhino stuff.
So, so how do you approach adding new genetics into your rhino project?
Basically, very much the way I look at things is I try and throw the most powerfulest controlling gene at a project. Okay, so like I said, we threw leopard at it because we knew how dominant leopard was.
Right.
So I'm one of these guys where I won't shy away. If something's got to be done and it's a negative, at least we know. Yeah. Whereas a lot of people will shy away from negatives in a project because they don't want to see the project fail. To
Right.
me, I'd rather throw as much as I can at the project and see what sticks. And
Right.
that's how I approach it. So this season, I've got a chocolate pastel yellow belly rhino clown to use. I've got a super pastel rhino clown to use. I've recently just used the rhino clown, which was the one that did a full circle and came back to me. That's her clutch that's just hatched. And then I've still got the original mom to use. Now, what I want to do this season is throw spot nose at rhino
Okay.
this
Nice.
year, because again, spot nose being a very controlling mutation. Um, we know chocolate and spot nose are on the same sort of in the same
Yeah.
spider, complex.
Yeah.
And we've already got a pastel a pastel yellow belly chocolate rhino, and we've got no neurological issues because again, a lot of people worry about issues. Does it kink? Does it
Right.
reproduce? Has it got neurological issues? So after seeing the chocolate rhino stuff, I'm confident that it's obviously not in the spider complex because we can't. Well, I'm not seeing any spider-like neurological issues. Let's say, is it allelic in the spider complex? That's going to be the next step,
Okay.
and finding out if it's allelic to anything. But so far, every time we get a new shed test that comes out, I'm if it looks similar, I'm sending the shed off to get it tested.
Right, right, right. Now, where would you like to see the Rhino project in, let's say, 5 years?
I'd like to see some Rhino Ultramel sunsets and Rhino
Ooh.
monsoon clowns.
Oh, me
Um,
too.
Yes, yes, so would
yeah.
I.
So, and this is what I say to people is when we're looking at a project, I don't look at the short term gain, if you know what I mean. Like I've just
Right.
hatched some chocolate calico fire yellow belly enchi
Dang.
combos, which are 100% het sunset posset ultramel. So
Yeah.
again, we've got super chocolate. We can do the calico works well in sunset, you know. But I've also got blackhead females on the shelf. I've got
Right.
acids, which are the blackhead females. Sorry, are double het ultramel sunsets. We've got acid double het ultramel sunsets. We've got Russo clown het sunset. So yeah. So what I try and do is put hets on the shelf because I'm not I'm not interested in trying to be the person to in that race to make that combo. I want to
Right.
put stuff on the shelf so when we do eventually breed them, we've got some amazing combos to hit. I've just made for the first time I've made so I'll just rewind a bit. All uh, all my sunset stuff is based upon we have predominantly sunset ultramal stuff. Ultramal for me has always been a foundation of my collection. I think Ultramal was one of those forgotten genes because banana took over, and everyone started dropping Ultramal. So anyway, I think Ultramal sunsets. I sent one over to Brad Boa. So they, I believe, were the first people in the US to have an Ultramal sunset, courtesy of the UK, if you like. But it's been really cool to see people, work with sunset. And when I originally got into sunset, I wasn't a massive fan, but that made me want to work with it, if that makes sense. It kind of, I wanted to make stuff that wanted people to get into the project. I had to find a quality sunset. I had to make my hets. I had to breed them back to each other because what I've learned over the years is when you line breed for a trait, quality, you don't want to put like a het sunset from this guy over here and a het sunset from this guy over here and put them together because you'll end up with what I would class as, and again, not always, but potentially you could end up with a sub poor, taking the best you can find, making your own hets, and then using them to make your quality examples, and then you can outbreed it into your other combos once you've got the quality established. So once we've established the quality side of things, I then look at going, well, what genes can we do? To seeing the calico spot nose sunset that Brad Boa or Brock Wagner, I can't remember which guys did. That then gave me some more ideas. But like I said, we've got acid on the shelf. We've got blackhead because what I'm keen to do is make the pattern pop. When
Right.
you want the when you used to wear those 3D glasses when you were a kid and you used to look at the magazines or watch the
Yep.
film, and but what I'm saying is I want that pattern to stand off the animal. So trying to bring back the contrast as well as making it bright. Now fireworks in sunset, but I think the OD, I made an OD yellow belly ultramal sunset, and that thing just it looked nuts,
It
absolutely.
sounds heater.
Wow.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It was unfortunate that for some known reason it was eating, it was doing fine, it was definitely a holdback. Unfortunately, I came in the one day to feed it and it was just passed away. However, for as much as it's a kick in the balls, pardon the pun, it's also a learning curve, you know, that we can't
Right.
take these animals for granted, that we've got to enjoy, you know, what we're doing every day. You know, we've got to take the little wins and just worry about the little wins. So I think regarding the genes, I'm definitely got some bang. So I've got some bang
Right.
sunset stuff, but very quickly we have got some bang stuff going on into the sunset, including red stripe and yellow belly. Like I said, we into the bang project with the sunset stuff.
Can you tell us a little bit of how the differences between your guys' market is and the American market?
I can because I've been fortunate enough to visit the States, visit Canada, visit Europe, and see the UK. So um, it is very different. And I don't mean, you know, no disrespect to either the European market or the UK market or the US or Canada market, but a spade is a spade. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, like, what we mean by that is that I just try and tell it how it is. Now, in the
Right. Right.
US, in the US, a lot of people think here in the UK that the US is in front or Canada is in front. In actual fact, we're kind of level pegging regarding quality and combos and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
The the biggest difference is in the UK, it's based more upon a hobby, where in the
Okay.
US and Canada, it's very easy, and I say this very loosely, so no offense meant, but it's easier to turn it into a business in the US and Canada than it is in
Okay.
the UK. Now that doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means that the amount of money that is being spent in the US compared to the UK um, is different. You know, I the sweet spot in the UK for selling an animal is between £300 and £600, or $300 and $600. Let's say, yeah,
Right.
that's your sweet spot. The animals that are 5,000 or above are rarities to sell, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yep. No,
So
that makes perfect sense.
So the market in the UK, obviously we're a smaller island. It's a very niche market. We have a lot of issues with rules and regulations over here. Um, but you know, it is different. But a lot of people, a lot of people expect to put a snake on morph market and expect in 2 days for them to get a message to say, "Can I buy that snake?" And when they don't get that message, they're like, "Oh, I need to lower the price." And all of a sudden, you know, they're jumping and lowering the price, and you, you know, you've just got to take your time, you know.
Right. 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 Now you talked about a little bit about rules and regulations over there. Do you guys have somebody like US Art that helps fight for your guys' rights for your animals?
Um, yes and no. I do support USR and everything that Phil and the team do over at USR. I'm the first guy when I go to Tinley. I'm the first guy to go over to Phil and the team and say thank you for everything you do. Because whatever happens in the US and Canada can be used against us in the UK or in Europe. So I'm
Mm,
a big believer that
absolutely.
we've got to support each other. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Over here we have a company called Responsible Reptile Keeping. Now,
Okay.
Responsible Reptile Keeping are a media company that deliver data and truth. Yeah.
Right.
So they are a worldwide organization. So they're not just privy to the UK or Europe. They support USR. They support a lot of people in the US, Canada, all over the world. and they are basically the people that are going to give us the right information to say, you know, to the governing bodies, the information you have is false.
Okay.
This is the facts. This is truth. So the responsible reptile keeping represents all of us. So not just one. You know what I mean? But we don't have like a UKR, if that makes sense.
Right. Now, that kind of leads into my next question is how do you respond to the misinformation that is on social medias?
I don't post any misinformation. So what I mean by that is, do you know when we see stuff on Facebook, and predominantly most of the negativity comes from Facebook, yeah?
Right. Yep.
When we see stuff that's been posted either by animal rights activists or by other people who are doing wrong in our hobby, like there was one recently where there was a picture of a baby ball python that was still half hanging out the egg, and it was up for sale on Morph Market, right? I won't repost that. And do you know the reason? The reason for that is I won't repost it. I'll pull it up and I'll just quickly show you.
Why would that even be on Morph Market?
Hang on.
Oh yeah. What the heck?
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would that be on Morph Market like that?
So that is labeled as a pastel sugar hypo, and it's not. It looks more like a hypo pastel. Looks more like a pastel lesser clown. But I don't know if you can see it, but it's still got its umbilical cord,
Yeah.
and it's still. Hang on, let's just tilt that a bit. You see that?
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely see it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's still got its umbilical cord, and it's still attached kind of in the egg. Now, the problem I have with that is if I post that and go,
Right.
hey guys, look how bad this is. Because I don't just have people that follow me in the hobby, I've got like, you know, kids at my daughter's school that follow me. I've got
Right.
people, friends, people I work with, people who don't even own reptiles who would love to have one, but they can't have one maybe because of where they live or, you know, the relationship they're in. Maybe they can't own one. Maybe they still live at home and the parents don't want a reptile. If I post that, it sort of shows that actually our hobby, you know, even though we know who are
Right.
in the hobby, the ups and the downs, it sort of brings light to the negative, to the minority, the very minority of people in our hobby, like there is in any other hobby. Yeah,
Yeah.
it gives them light. So I try not to post anything like that negative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what I will do is if we have something like that or something that we want to discuss. So obviously I've got my Patreon and we've got the Discord which is attached to that.
Right.
In the Discord we have like question of the day, and that there is, we can have an open discussion between breeders and we all not hang each other and shoot each other. You know what I mean? It doesn't go crazy.
Right.
It's a respectful discussion. Sorry. What's important is that I feel people who have got a big social media presence, we've got to be held responsible and be careful with what we show. That doesn't
Yeah,
mean we
that's very
can't
true.
use. It doesn't mean we can't use our social media for good, because we can. But like stuff like I won't show any feeding videos. I won't show any feeding
Right.
pictures.
Right.
I won't show any lock pictures anymore, because you know as well as I do, you've got the snake in a 40 and it's big enough in a 40 or a 70, but it chooses the corner to lock up with its male. So when you
Yeah.
take that picture,
Yep.
they're like these two big snakes, and it looks like they're squashed in this little tub, and that's not really the case, you know?
Yeah,
So,
that's true. It's very true.
Yes, it is.
but again, we all know how the snakes feed. We all
Yeah.
know what we go through. So when I look at my social media stuff, I also know I have a duty of care to our industry, to our community, that I've got to make sure I'm posting the right things, if that makes sense. So
Yep.
with the negativity and all the spoil it for everyone. And that's why I don't share any negative stuff. Now, if I have something negative that happens, like a baby that doesn't make it, like what we've just discussed, I will tell people because
Right.
I don't shy away from telling people who want to learn the truth,
Right.
you know, the hard facts. This is an amazing hobby. You've got to take the wins, but you will experience some losses, and you've
Yeah,
just got
because
to
it's going to
understand.
happen.
Yeah, 100%. You
Yeah.
know, but that's kind of how I deal with things. And you know, there's a lot of people out there who do want to see people fail, but
Right.
I just try not to be part of that. Yeah, part of that negativity. You know.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you, which my last question. I usually try to keep more lighthearted, more fun, and that. So, if you can take one person to dinner, dead or alive, who would that be?
Ooh, wow, that's a good question. So there's probably a number of people, but I think for me, any person. Are we talking
Any
about any
person.
person in the world?
Any person in the
Wow,
world.
that's a real good one. Dead or alive? I think I'd wow. Okay. Now I've got all these names going over in my head now, and I'm like, wow, I'd love to talk to him. Steve Irwin. Let's just
Girl?
Steve Irwin is probably the one guy that I never got an opportunity to meet. That I
Okay.
think, as reptile enthusiasts, as animal enthusiasts, I think we'd all love to spend an hour with Steve and just, as
Most
we'd say,
definitely.
shoot
The
the shit.
shit.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just talk, listen to the stories. You know, I think that's the one guy for me. That would be the person that's passed away. The person I'd love to have next to him would be Sir David Attenborough. You know,
Oh
and just
wow. Wow.
have those two, you know,
Yeah.
just talking to us, telling us stories and whatever else. So yeah, yeah, definitely.
Anything else for him, Steve?
So I don't have any other questions. I just want to say thank you for giving us some of your time and coming over here to the network and spitting some of your knowledge, man. I think that Rhino stuff is really cool. I
Yeah.
think you've got a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. You already do now. But I'm glad to have gotten a little bit of time on here to just listen to you rap, man. I just appreciate it.
Yep. And
Anything like this, I really enjoyed doing because ultimately, you know, this was something that, you know, the more we share, the more we do, the more we learn. You know, it makes us a stronger community. You know, and I'm a massive believer in, you know, we are stronger together. I keep, you got me? Yeah, I keep losing you. So, are you there?
yep, we're here.
You there? Yeah. Okay. Cool. I just lost you all then. I'm a
Oh,
big believer in that you know we're a stronger community together. You know, and
right.
if I can help and share information and learn as well, because I love to learn, um, it's the least I can do. You know, everyone shows me support. Support what supports you is what I'm all about. So yeah, I appreciate and thank you so much for giving me a second chance because I messed up the first one. Giving me a second chance to be on your podcast. It's been amazing.
Well, I appreciate you coming out, and I know it's getting kind of late there, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So everybody, remember this weekend we will be out at St. Louis, the Show Me
Oh,
Reptile. And remember, hard work, determination, and positivity, your dreams too can become a reality.